Have a very good day to Dr. Lau and my fellow classmates. My name is Xiaowang Fei. In this video, I will talk about the summarize of my finding regarding to the peer-to-peer software architecture. Peer-to-peer architecture, also known as P2P, is a decentralized communication model that commonly uses computer network architecture in which each workstation or node has the same capabilities and responsibilities. P2P is often compared and contrasted to the standard client-server architecture, in which some computers are dedicated to serving others. There are generally two major types of P2P, which includes the unstructured or structured. In structured P2P computer network architecture, the peers and resources as well are organized according to specific criteria and algorithms. This leads to intersections with specific topologies and properties. Besides, this type of network use some type of global protocol to ensure that any nodes in the network can proficiently route a search to some peers that has a desired file. Besides, moving on to the next sections, there are three different models of unstructured P2P computer network architecture, which includes the pure P2P, hybrid P2P, and centralized P2P. In pure P2P systems, every individual computer interacts directly with each other and share information and resources without using any dedicated server. So moving on to the second model of unstructured P2P, which is the hybrid P2P. The figure shows the physical and virtual network for hybrid P2P network, so that you have better understanding about how the hybrid P2P works. In this type of networks, infrastructure nodes are allowed to exist and are often a type of central directory server, which is the super peer shown in the image. All clients connected to the network must connect to one of these servers. If there is a new user wishes to join the network, it must first contact the central directory server and report its file that want to be shared. For example, if one of the leaf want to upload something to the super P want to upload something, it must inform the super peer before it upload anything to the server. So moving on to the next, also the final type of unstructured P2P network, which is the centralized P2P network. These centralized P2P network are very similar to the pure P2P network, except for the added concept of supernodes. These supernodes are nodes that are dynamically assigned the task of servicing a small subpart of the peer network by indexing and caching file content. Peers are chosen to be supernode automatically if seed peers' bandwidth and processing power is sufficient. All queries for files on this type of network are sent to and processed by the supernodes. Next, I will talk about the strengths and weaknesses of P2P architectures or networks. First, in these sections, I will talk about the advantages of P2P networks. A P2P network can achieve load balancing and scalability by allowing peers to efficiently join and leave the network and users to efficiently store and retrieve data content. Moreover, as all the resources are connected in a P2P network, P2P applications allow users to control many parameters of operations, such as how many members connections to seek or allow at one time, whose system to connect to or avoid, what services to offer, and how many system resources to devote to the network. Besides, P2P network or architecture is easy and simple to set up because it only requires a hub or a switch to connect all the resources together. then it can function. Since it only requires a hub or a switch, thus the overall cost of building and maintaining this type of network is comparatively very less. Last but not least, another advantage in regards to P2P network is that there is no single point of failure in the network. If one of the nodes fails, the rest of the nodes are able to continue relaying information. So every coin has two sides. Same goes to all the architecture style. It has pros and cons. Moving on to the weaknesses of the peer-to-peer network or architecture. The first disadvantages of peer-to-peer networks or architectures I will discuss about is it is difficult in data recovery or backup. In this type of architecture, each individual system should have its own data recovery or backup. Besides, another disadvantages of P2P network is the high bandwidth usage required. This is because one of the major advantages of P2P architecture of network is to allow users within the same network to transfer large amount of informations and files through the use of a common P2P client. Since the size of the file of information is huge, thus it will require a lot of bandwidth to complete the transmissions. This high bandwidth usage has also led to internet services provider starting to limit P2P traffic. Furthermore, this type of network architecture is more susceptible to security problems because it may not depend on central servers. Security is hard in traditional networks that depends on central server, such as client-server architecture. Therefore, without depend on central server, it is even hard to authenticate the communications between two peers. Also, some of the P2P applications are dangerous because it can be used to bypass the firewall and distribute malware to the peers. Last but not least, P2P network is difficult to administer. In this network, the whole system is decentralized, thus it is difficult to administer. This is because one peer cannot determine the whole accessibility setting of whole network. So moving on to the next session, I will talk about some sample applications of the P2P architectures or network. The first application I will talk about is the Words, previously also known as Arduous. Words is a BitTorrent client that practices P2P architectures and written in Java. And the purpose of Words is uses to transfer files via the BitTorrent protocol. The BitTorrent protocol is a protocol for the practice of P2P file sharing. It is a way of exchanging or distributing large amounts of data over the internet. However, the user do not receive the data from a central server. Instead, they receive from other users, which also known as the peers. For users who want to upload a file, first they have to create a small torrent descriptor file that they distribute by conventional means, also known as trackers. The user then makes the file itself available to a BitTorrent nodes acting as a seed. Those with the torrent descriptor file can give it to their own BitTorrent nodes, which acting as a peers or leeches download it by connecting to the seeds or other peers. Below figure shows better explanation about how this application works. Since client practice P2P architectures, therefore the network structure as shown in the above figure is same with the previous P2P network structure. As shown in the diagram above, the middle computer, which is the blue computer, is acting as a seed to provide a file to the other's computer, which acts as the peer, which is the yellow computers. Each downloader can also act as a peer for other peers to leash the data. Another application that practice P2P protocol specification is JXDA. JXDA is also known as Just the Pros. JXDA is an open source P2P protocol specification started and supported by Sun Microsystems in 2001. It defines a set of protocols that developers can use to build almost any P2P applications. The diagram shows how the JXDA works. JXDA peers create a virtual overlay network which allows peers to interact with other peers even when some of the peers and resources are behind firewalls and NATs or use different network transport. Each resource is identified by a unique ID so that a peer can change its localization address while keeping a constant identification numbers. JXDA uses asynchronous unidirectional communication channel called pipes for sending or receiving messages. All the data interchange in JXDA is in the form of XML formatted document. Now come to the conclusion of this video. In my opinion, P2P network structure is similar to client-server network architecture. However, P2P network involves client with resources such as bandwidth and storage space. For me, there are no such thing as best software architecture. It is all depends on which architecture suit the system or application the most. Because I strongly believe that different software architectures serve for different purposes. Where P2P network or architecture are good to connect small numbers of resources and place where high level of security is not required. In case of large file transferring or instant messaging where no sensitive data can be presented, this type of architecture is advisable and preferred. Thank you.